like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity and the Quick Cut podcast. Hopefully, this has been helpful to you. The previous ones and this one will be as well. Share it with other people. We've been going through the series and podcast for anger, and we're using Life GPS to be able to do that. So you've been through the GEO and you've looked at it and the pain quadrant. And so the lower the number, the higher the energy is that we have. So we're looking at the driver personality. So that's the individual who chose the pyramid or chose things being out of control. Now the combined, again, same thing, lower the energy, the higher that is. So if you got in here, if you got a 2, 3, or 4 in personality or in the upper right-hand side, then you'd have high energy as a driver. So Tim, we talked about the core one, the base one of addictions to anger, about how the core of anger comes from entitlement. How does it work for the driver personality? Like, how are they entitled to to anger? Like, how does that create, how is it different than the other personalities, Tim?
Oftentimes I believe that the driver believes that things have to be done right. The right way is their way, and so therefore if someone does it something other than their way, they believe that they're entitled to the anger that everything's going wrong. And so how to prevent that, I believe that drivers
Before
need to
you go there, I think, Tim, that might be the analytic. It needs to be done the right way. And so that's analytic. I'm a driver, analytic driver. So I believe it needs to be done the right way. And what is the right way? Well, it's my way. So I think that's deep analytic. I think a driver, it can be that, but I think what the driver is looking for based on their pain is when things get out of control. So if things are out of control, the driver will get angry, I think. What do you think about that?
So I definitely would agree. I test out as a chameleon. Sometimes I'm a driver, sometimes I'm an analytic. They all kind of mix in together for me.
Yeah.
So I believe that when things are out of control for the driver, it's almost like the analytic when they're it's not their way. It's not going their way and how life should be living. So I do believe that when they find little enjoyment in the chaos, so almost how to prevent that is finding enjoyment in the chaos, finding that things don't always have to be your way. That's where entitlement comes into play. Is if everything's your way, there's no chaos, and then there's no chaos, you're not bringing. It's almost like you're expecting life to be a certain way.
So do you know what all the drivers are thinking right now?
No idea.
So what the drivers are saying is, well, Tim, I'm not saying you're wrong on that. I'm just saying that no, it's not that. It's not that people have to live my way. It's that I'm tired of cleaning up after people's messes. Like, they crash and they burn, and then all of a sudden everything's like their lives are a disaster, and I need to come in, or I feel I need to come in and help clean up the mess. And if I don't clean up the mess, nobody will, and the person literally could die. This is not dramatic. This is not being one of the other 3 personalities. Literally, like, so out of control is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be a life-threatening thing. And so it's like the driver's like, how do I let, like a child, do you let a child go ahead and make mistakes? Sure. Do you let a child make mistakes that are potentially life-threatening?
No.
Most would say no. Most would say no. I have a grandson who was 11 and swimming in our pond, and I trusted his mom and I trusted a friend of mine, Kenny, to watch over him and not have him drown because he's a little crazy. My friend went ahead and said, I saw him go under. I watched him. I maybe made the wrong choice and I let him go under once, hoping he would learn his lesson. And then he got him. And I don't think that was a wrong thing to do. It can be risky, but if you assess the risk, you say, hey, sometimes people have to learn. The driver is frustrated because it's like, it seems like to the driver that other people continually make poor choices and get themselves and other people in harm's way. And there is like, when are they going to learn? But I'm only 59 years old, so that I haven't figured that out. So if you're listening to the podcast, comment on it or something. Like if you figured out. So when people say, well, just let them crash, Mark, it's like, well, if you ever get a chance to have a one-on-one conversation with me and how I allowed my oldest son to crash and the repercussions on him and the rest of the family are permanent, and so it's hard for the driver tends to see into the future, so they see what's going to happen beforehand. And so often a child, they're going to be reckless on their tricycle, they're going to be reckless in their bike, they're going to be reckless in the car, they're going to be reckless on the whatever they're driving, and they might kill somebody else or kill themselves because of that. And so when, as a driver, do you step in and when don't you? I don't know the answer to that, but I have found that one thing that tends to gain control better than anything else is out of control. When you allow things as a driver to get out of control and then do everything you can to let people clean up after their own messes, then maybe people will learn, maybe not. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Share this with drivers. Drivers share this with other people. I think a lot of times people don't see the heart of a driver and say, hey, like, I'm not saying I told you so. I'm saying, can you learn from these situations and can you see the future for yourself? And if you can't, it's okay to be blind. If you're blind, I mean, it's okay, but you better get somebody who can see for you. That's really important.